Hi, everybody, and welcome back for another week of Spanish 1010. This week we're entering Chapter 2. I do briefly want to remind you that these videos are intended just to kind of supplement what's already there for you in the course, so they should not be used as a substitute for reading the book or going through the chapters in detail, okay? Um, so that being said, just like every other chapter in our book, um, you are divided into two sections here. So this is chapter 2, part 1 about family. And then over here you have chapter 2, part 2 about school subjects. And that's what your composition for this chapter will be about. That can be found on page 66 in your book, and I will be sending that out as we get a little bit closer to time. And I'm going to be jumping back and forth throughout several different screens here as we go through a lot of things. So we're going to start talking about family, and on that note, I'm going to go back up here to exploraciones léxicas, or lexical explorations, vocabulary basically here, where you get this awesome little chart full of family members. We'll start with some basics. You have the madre and the padre, so mother and father. Madre is mother, mama is mom, padre is father, and papa is dad. So madre and padre, mom and dad. You can go up and see your grandparents up here, abuelo and abuela. And abuelo is a grandfather, and abuela is a grandmother. Notice we talked a little bit last week about things that end in an O being masculine, and things that end in an A being feminine. So there's one grandfather here, abuelo, and one grandmother here, abuela. As we go down, you see yo. Notice in Spanish we do not say mi, we say yo, meaning I. And as you look over on each side, you have, in juxtaposition with myself here, Hernan, you have an hermano and you have an hermana. So an hermano would be a brother, whereas an hermana would be a sister. Okay. You also might look at this from the perspective of the parents, in which case Juan Pablo, Hernan, and Belén would all be the children of Supaya and Orlando. So the word for children in Spanish would be hijos. It's not a hijo. Okay, remember the H in Spanish is silent, so it should be el hijo would be a son, and hija would be a daughter, or you have hijos for children, or it could be sons, depending on how you look at it. So as you go over here, looking from the position again of Hernan, as you go up, you have the tío and the tía of Hernan, the uncle and the aunt. Again, notice tío ends in an O because it is masculine, and tía ends in an A because it is feminine. So one uncle, one aunt. In relation to Hernan again, you have Hernan's primos over here, his cousins. You have his male cousin, Lorenzo, el primo, and you have his female cousin, Ana, the prima. Okay, my favorite part, you're surrounded here by mascotas, pets, or as I learned, animales. Your book uses the term mascota, somewhere down here, for pet, but I grew up with animales, so both are acceptable. You have Timiteo, el ratón, the rat, or mouse you might say, Timiteo. Hernan has a pet caballo, here a horse, Pinto el caballo. Over here, there's a dog, el perro, and ironically, the dog's name is Oso. Oso in Spanish means bear, so I thought that was kind of funny that the dog's name was Bear. So, Hernan el oso, or perdón, Oso el perro, Oso the dog. Over here you have Silvestre el gato. El gato is a cat, and Silvestre, you can probably guess, is Sylvester. So Sylvester the cat. Burbuja, el pez. The Z in Spanish makes an S sound. So burbuja, el pez. Burbuja, the fish. And Nacho, el pájaro. So Nacho, the bird, el pájaro. So that's some family words. As you go down here on this page, you see some of the words for step. So you have hermanastro, a step brother. Notice an hermano was a brother. When you add astro to the end, it includes step. So hermano, brother, hermanastro, step brother. Hermana, sister. Hermanastra, stepsister. Madre, mother. Madrastra, stepmother. So on and so forth. So that's just some good information for you there. I'm going to jump back over to our PowerPoint for a moment here. There are some words you need to be careful as you pronounce. So you have el hijo, the son. Remember, it's not ijo. Hermano, the H is silent, so hermano. A nieto is a grandson. El nieto or a nieta is a granddaughter. Suegro, nuera, pájaro, and caballo. Careful with the accent here on the A. A pájaro is a bird, and the A with an accent means you should put emphasis on that word. So el pájaro. And el caballo, the double L makes a Y sound in most Spanish-speaking countries, unless you're in Argentina, where it can resemble a sh. So el caballo could be a horse if you're in Argentina, or a caballo could be a horse anywhere else. So one of the things you're going to be asked to do with these family members is kind of apply your knowledge of vocab in some sentences. So it says, La madre de mi padre es mi blank. So translate this step by step. La madre, the mother, de mi padre, the mother of my father, is my, you should be saying grandmother, and the word for grandmother in Spanish is abuela. So you would fill that in by writing abuela. Abuela. Okay. El esposo de mi tía es mi blank. The spouse or the husband of my aunt is my, should be uncle, mi tío. Okay, so you can go through and complete the rest of these on your own time, but I think you kind of get a feel for what you're going to be doing this week. Next up, I want to, well, really quick, I do want to go back and show you one more thing with the family here. It may ask you talking about, I may give you a picture and ask you to describe the family. So look at this one. It says, La mascota de Hernán, and you may have to put it into a sentence. So if I go back up to that previous page with family members, if it'll let me, here we go. You're looking for la mascota de Hernán. So you see Hernán again here. His mascota, his pet is a horse, Pinto. So you might have to write the name, Pinto, el caballo. Or it might give you a full sentence like su paya is the blank of Lorenzo. If we look back again, and you'll learn this semester that I'm very technologically illiterate. If we look back, su paya is the blank of Lorenzo. We see Lorenzo over here. Su paya would be his aunt. So if you're filling in that sentence, you would say that, go back over here, su paya es la tía de Lorenzo, the aunt, the tía. Okay, so that's one of those things you're going to be doing this week in the chapter. The next thing I want to talk to you about are your possessive adjectives. And one of these things that I hate about being in an online class is I don't get to pick on you guys, okay? So in a classroom, I usually try to pick out somebody and say, well, you know, Braden, he has a possessive girlfriend. What's it mean to be possessive? Well, she just thinks that he belongs to her. He is her man, okay? So in Spanish, these possessive adjectives, my, your, his or her, our, your, and their, or your alls, okay? So the hardest part, I think, for English speakers to understand about these possessive adjectives is that it's not really, it's not that important that it's talking about you as much as it is the item you're talking about. So I'll explain a little more on that, but for my in Spanish, you have two ways to say my. You can say mi or mis. To say your informal, you can say tú or tus. To say his or her, su or sus. To say our, nuestro or nuestras. To say your, vuestro or vuestros, vuestra or vuestras. And to say their or your alls, su or sus again. So it depends on what you're talking about. So check out abuelo. You know that an abuelo is a grandfather. My grandfather, mi abuelo. There's only one there, mi abuelo. But if I want to talk about my grandfathers, notice abuelos has an S. So mi also has to get an S and it becomes mis. So my grandfather, singular, mi abuelo. My grandfathers, mis abuelos. Or this could sometimes be translated collaboratively as my grandparents, so mis abuelos. You also have your informal, using the word tú, so your amigo, tu amigo, your friends, tus amigos, because there's more than one. His or her cousin, su primo, his or her cousins, sus primos. Okay, so now you can finally decipher exactly why you've been saying it wrong all these years with mi casa es su casa or mi casa es tu casa. Now, these technically aren't totally wrong, but mi casa es su casa. Remember, su is your formal. So my house is your house formally. So I probably wouldn't go over here to someone and say, hey man, the fridge is over there, sir, make yourself at home, right? I would probably use more of the informal form. Mi casa es tu casa. My house is your house. Not so much mi casa es su casa formally. Okay. And forgive me, I keep checking to make sure I'm recording. This is the third time I've recorded this video, and for whatever reason, my computer decides to stop recording for no apparent reason. So I just keep checking over there. Sorry about that. As we look at our, again, it doesn't matter so much about us. It doesn't matter if we are both boys or if we're both girls or if we're a guy and a girl. That's not what matters. It's the object that you're talking about. So our class, remember class is feminine, so it becomes nuestra clase. But our professors, the professors are a group of men and women. So nuestros profesores. Same thing here with vuestro and vuestras. Vuestro hermano, your all's brothers. There's only one brother, and he is a male, so vuestro hermano. There are multiple compañeras, though, so vuestras compañeras. Their dog, su perro. Their dogs, sus perros. Okay, so they have to agree in gender and number. I always like to use this as an example here. It tells you that Paco tiene un gato. Paco has a cat. So if I'm using my possessive adjectives, I can think through, Paco has a cat. My cat, your cat, his cat, our cat, or their cat. I'm talking about Paco. I'm talking about his cat, su gato. So you can go back over here, look at your chart of all of these adjectives and say, oh, it should be su gato. So you can see his and su gato. So his cat, su gato. Okay, looking at another one. Do you have your book? And it says usted, so you know it's you formal. I'm going to use tiene usted su libro. Do you have your book? Okay, so I'm going to give you a little example to try with these. Number one says that mi madre, or mis madre, es bonita. Notice it uses bonita because my mother is a female. Remember, from last week, I noticed some errors on your test here about adjective agreement. So remember, talking about one guy, my ending for an adjective should be an O. Talking about one girl, my ending for my adjective should be an A. Two guys, my ending should be OS, and two girls, my ending should be AS. So blank mother is pretty. There's only one mom here in this case. There's not an S, so it should be mi madre. Blank dad is tall. Notice there's only one dad, padre. It should be mi padre. Oh, but look down here at number 3. Blank hermanas son cómicas. So blank sisters are funny. Cómicas, notice, has an AS because we're talking about multiple sisters. Hermanas ends in AS, so cómicas has to end in AS. So my sisters, there's more than one, so I can't just say mi hermanas. I have to say mis hermanas because there's more than one sister. Okay, I think you all can take note of those and finish the rest of those there on your own. Just like to give you some examples of what you're going to see this week. As you look down, you see this awesome picture of this cute little dog where it says, El perro siempre está en el sofá. The dog is always on the couch. Or in my house, El gato siempre está en el sofá. So you're choosing here in this paragraph between su or sus to say there. So it tells you that Alberto, David, y Oscar, Albert, David, and Oscar, son hermanos, they're brothers, y tienen un apartamento en Lima. And they have an apartment together in Lima. Lima is in Peru, in case you didn't know. So Albert, David, and Oscar are brothers, and they have an apartment in Peru. Blank apartment is pequeño, is small, pero confortable, but comfortable. Now, are you going to say su apartamento or sus apartamento? And how do you know? Good. Hopefully you're saying su apartamento here because their apartment in this case does not have an S, so it can't be sus. There's only one apartment and it's their apartment. It should be su apartamento. Okay, so just to give you a feel for those. I do have a short little video that I want you to be able to see very quickly, which helps you kind of preview some of these things about possessive adjectives, just to hear it from someone else for a moment.
Muy bien. Esta lección es para los posesivos en español. In español, when we use nouns, you'll usually notice articles in front of the noun. If you've forgotten what articles are, you might review the videos on definite and indefinite articles. But for now, we have el lápiz, un lápiz, los lápices, unos lápices. La regla, una regla, las reglas, unas reglas. If you remember, el, la, los, and las all mean the. Una mean one or a, and unos, unas mean some. But what if I want others to know who the object or objects belong to? That's when possessive adjectives come in. Por ejemplo, mi lápiz, tu lápiz, su lápiz. Mi regla, tu regla, su regla. Bueno, if those objects were more than one, mis lápices, tus lápices, sus lápices. Mis reglas, tus reglas, sus reglas. So when the object is one, the possessive adjective, mi, tu, or su, is also one. Por ejemplo, mi perro, tu perro, su perro. When the object is more than one, so is the possessive adjective. Mis perros, tus perros, sus perros. So don't think of them as my dogs, but rather my's dogs, or yours dogs, or his's dogs, hers dogs. It's a little bit strange if you're really translating into English, though. Also notice that we have tu perro, okay? But we've also learned in the personal pronouns, tu with an accent mark. These are both pronounced the exact same way. The only difference is for the accent mark when spelled, we know that it is you. Without an accent mark, it is your. If tu comes before a verb, or it's by itself, it's most likely referring to you. If it's right before a noun, it's referring to your. You also might notice the very last one, su, could be his, her, your, etc. So we have all these different meanings. For example, if I were to say su teléfono, it could mean Pablo's phone, Cecilia's phone, Carmen's phone, Juan's phone, your phone if I'm being formal with you, his phone, her phone, etc. For that reason, in times of confusion, we'll clarify with the object plus a de plus the person's name. With this example, el teléfono de Pablo, el teléfono de Cecilia, el teléfono de Carmen, el teléfono de Juan, el teléfono de usted, el teléfono de él.
Okay, so on and so forth. I'm going to stop here, but I think you're kind of getting the feel for how these work. And let me just double check. We're still recording. That's good. Okay, so you'll notice here, mi amigo es optimista. My friend is optimistic. Tus libros son grandes. As he said, literally, yours books are bigs. Now, if I looked at you in English and said, yours books are bigs, you would say, Use needs to take English classes, okay? So be careful translating literally in Spanish. Sometimes this just becomes natural after a while, but tu libro would be your book singular. Tus libros, your books, are grandes, big, okay? So tus libros, gotta be plural. Now, in Spanish, there is no apostrophe S. We don't say Marcos's hermana or Matthew's gato. We say the sister of Marcos, la hermana de Marcos, with de meaning of in this case, la hermana de Marcos, or el gato de Matthew, el gato de Mateo, okay? One thing you need to know about that whole de thing, though, is that we can't de él in Spanish. And I always joke with my students to help you remember this. Speakers of Spanish tend to speak really quickly. So, if you say de él really fast, it comes out as del anyway. It's kind of like word vomit. So if you really want to know the linguistical reason behind this, you can't have two vowels side by side like this in Spanish without them rolling together anyway. So de and él becomes del. So in this case, ella es la esposa del profesor. This comes from the sentence, ella es la esposa de el profesor, of the professor. But when you start speaking really fast, ella es la esposa del profesor. It becomes del anyway. So this is called a contraction. De and el become del. That's something that you'll need to know. Just like in Spanish, a and el become al, another key contraction. So a and el become al. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Here's just a tad bit more practice on this for you, and then we're going to move on. It tells you el hijo de Mateo, the son of Matthew, to say his son. If you look back at your possessive adjectives chart up here, to say his, I'm going to use either su or sus. Well, how many sons are there? Notice it's singular, so it should be. Okay, as we move on this week, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about conjugating verbs. And you'll notice that verbs in Spanish always end in either AR, ER, or IR. So in this case, we're only talking about AR verbs this week. So if you go back to our particular vocabulary page this week, and this was the very end of the chapter. You can always go to the end and hit vocabulario, and it takes you straight there. You will see you had your family words there, your pets. Down here you have all these verbs. You'll notice they all end in AR. Again, Spanish verbs always end in AR, ER, or IR, and they're always translated as to and something else. So you'll see here you have to help, to dance, to walk, to sing, to cook, to buy, to wish, to teach, to listen, so on and so forth. Always to and something. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't go around talking to people saying, oh, hey, I to talk, you to talk, he to talk, we to talk, they to talk, right? We conjugate these verbs by changing the hablar, okay? And the way that that happens, as we go to conjugate these AR verbs, you have to remove the AR. When you do that, you're left with HABL, which I joke as hobble. So we have to hobble on down. We take off the AR and we hobble on down. Notice you're back to this magical box you had from last week. So yo means I, tú is you, informal, él is he, ella, she, usted, you, formal. We have nosotros, which is we, vosotros, which is you all, only in Spain, ellos, they masculine, ellas, they feminine, and ustedes, you all. So after I have traveled down, after I've hobbled down, if you will, with my HABL, removing my AR from hablar, the verb, I get I talk, hablo, you talk, hablas, he or she talks, habla, we talk, hablamos, you all talk in Spain, habláis, and they talk, ellos, ellas, ustedes hablan. So that box will come in handy for you, and those are organized for you here as well. O, as, a, amos, ais, and an. Here are your endings. I do have a funny little video for you that's going to get stuck in your head slightly, and I do apologize, but I think it'll be worth it for you. So take a moment and listen to this for me, please.
For AR verbs in the present tense like talk, look, and explain. Oh, as, a, amos, ano, as, amos, ano, as, amos, an, and ice is used in Spain. Oh, otra vez. For AR verbs in the present tense like talk, look, and explain. Oh, as, a, amos, ano, as, amos, ano, as, amos, an, and ice is used in Spain. Oh.
And Bingo was his name. Oh, okay. So in all seriousness though, you can see here o, as, a, amos, ais, and an are your endings for these AR verbs, and that's very important that you know going forward. So hopefully that song may help a little bit. Unfortunately, there will be no singing exams this semester, but you will have some things like this. So with a verb like trabajar, to conjugate it, I'm going to take off my AR. Felix would be he, to say that he works. If I look back up my ending for he, él, my ending is going to be an A. So I'm going to say that Felix trabaja. It says los niños en cantar. To say that they sing, I'm going to take my AR off of cantar. Niños, children, would be they. If I go back up here to my they box, I see that ellos, ellas, ustedes, my ending is going to be AN. So I would get cantan. You go ahead and try the rest of these for me, please. Go ahead and pause me and try these. Okay, good. Hopefully as you try these, you will see that if I want to say you walk, caminar, I take off my AR and add back as. Tú caminas. I help my mom. Yo ayudo a mi madre. Javier and Carlos, they watch TV. Miran la televisión. And my friends and I, we drink coffee. Tomamos café. Okay, that gives you a little preview of those AR verbs. One quick note about this as well is that you should never have two conjugated verbs next to each other in Spanish. Let's hear that again. You never should have two conjugated verbs next to each other in Spanish. So it says that Juan necesita estudiar. He needs to study. I left this in the infinitive form, ending in AR, to say that he needs to study. Juan necesita estudiar. I didn't say Juan necesita estudiar. He studies. Once people learn how to conjugate, they start getting crazy and try to conjugate everything. So be careful. Remember, Juan needs. Needs is conjugated. You wouldn't say he needs study. You're saying he needs to study. Okay, down here. Yo canto y bailo bien. I sing and I dance well. You don't say I sing dance well. So notice there's an E, a Y, an and here, pronounced as E. I sing and dance well. So careful with that. To make things negative in Spanish, you just throw a no in front. So Pablo habla inglés. He speaks English, pero no habla francés. But he does not speak French. So habla inglés, no habla francés. He speaks, he does not speak. Habla, no habla. Okay. So you could take a moment and mention three things that you don't do. I'm going to do the same here. So I'm going to say that, move this down here. I'm going to say, yo no hablo italiano. Yo no bailo bien. Yo no cocino muy bien. So, I don't speak Italian. I don't dance. And I definitely don't cook very well. Those are my three no's. Okay. Something cool about Spanish that's a little different from English, you probably noticed all these little upside down question marks. Well, we do that in Spanish to signal a question, okay? Because the difference in a lot of these sentences is very subtle. Look at number one. It says, tú estudias mucho. You study a lot. So you'll notice this sort of pattern. You see the subject-verb pattern because that indicates a statement, subject-verb. But if I'm trying to make this into a question, it switches. So you see your upside down question mark and you get estudias tú mucho. Do you study a lot? So in this case, they've been switched where my verb comes first and then my subject, so verb-subject. So to create a question in Spanish, it's actually pretty easy. You're just switching around your subject and your verb. Check out number two. Los hermanos trabajan aquí. The brothers work here. That's a statement. My subject, brothers, is first, followed by my verb, trabajan. They work here. Making this into a question, I would say, trabajan aquí los hermanos. So I have my verb, trabajan, before my subject, hermanos. So question formation's quite simple. Okay, as we move into our second part of our chapter, you see the title, ¿Cómo es tu vida? How is your life? So this is talking about school subjects as our second theme here this week. If we go back to our vocab page, you can see on the second sheet of your vocab, you do have some handy-dandy phrases, and a lot of these are cognates, words that look alike in two languages, such as francés, which you know is French, or biología, biology, arte, art, alemán, German, algebra, algebra. Notice, unlike in English, we do not capitalize languages in Spanish. We also don't capitalize our subjects. Okay, so that's something kind of interesting to note. Careful with your pronunciation on a few of these. It should be el algebra, algebra, la biología, the accent on the I there makes ia, so la biología, las ciencias, science, la ingeniería, engineering, and la psicología, psychology. So those are just some tricky ones there. And química, chemistry, química. Okay, so I'm asking you which class interests you. Te interesa, which one interests you? If I want to say that something interests me, I respond and I say, me interesa el español. So Spanish is the class that interests me. If more than one thing interests me, I say, me interesan español y arte. So Spanish and art are the ones that interest me. If you think back to what you just learned about conjugating verbs, you've taken the verb interesar, which means to interest, and you've conjugated it properly in the he or she form. So it became, I took off my AR into interesar and added an A because he, she, or it interest me. So Spanish would be it. You can use this he or she box for it as well. So el español me interesa, or me interesa el español. Spanish interests me. I've lost my slide here. Here we go. Me interesa el español. Now, but Spanish and art, they interest me. I used my they box, which taking off my AR and interesar, I've added back my AN for interesan. They interest me. So just something to note there. I may ask you this week in your activities to select the class that doesn't belong. So look at number 3. We have Español, Spanish, Francés, French, Inglés, English, and Expresión oral, oral expression, or we might say public speaking, speech. So in this case, that is the class that doesn't belong. In number 2, we have Alemán, Álgebra, Cálculo, and Geometría. So we have German, algebra, calculus, and geometry. Obviously, the class that does not belong is Alemán, German. So you can get by circling those a little bit. Okay, I've already told you that we do not capitalize subjects. One common error that I see a lot of people make in their compositions is people go by and they a lot of times try to capitalize these, so don't do that. And then the other thing is they will put the class in front of clase. So I'll try to say física clase. Remember, in Spanish, we don't do that. Everything's kind of backwards. So instead of saying physics class, we say the class of physics, la clase de física. Instead of saying the Spanish class, we say la clase de español, the class of Spanish. Same thing with anything else. We don't say español profesor, Spanish teacher. We say el profesor de español, the professor of Spanish. So things are a little bit backwards. Okay, and the last grammatical note that I really want to make you aware of in this chapter is the verb tener. Tener means to have. Here's that bloody box again. So we have yo, yo means I, tú, you, informal, él is he, ella is she, and usted, you, formal, nosotros, we, vosotros, you all in Spain, ellos, they masculine, ellas, they feminine, and ustedes, you all. So, I don't say I to have, you to have, he to have. I've got to conjugate tener. This is an irregular verb, so it's one that you just have to memorize. But to say I have, we say yo tengo. You have, tú tienes. He or she has, él, ella, usted tiene. We have, nosotros tenemos. You all in Spain have, vosotros tenéis. Y ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen. So tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen. Tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, tienen. Say that 3 times fast. Now, usually the verb tener is typically followed by a noun. So I noticed there was an error in someone's introductory discussion board. So look at number 1. It says, mi abuela tiene 92 años. My grandmother has 92 years. Now, that sounds a little weird to us. I heard somebody say, yo soy 22 años. Now, we can't say yo soy 22 años. I am 22 years, okay? Rather than saying I am, which is natural, wanting to say that from English, we actually say I have 22 years. So we would say yo tengo 22 años. I have 22 years. My grandmother has 92 years. Just a little note there. You can say yo tengo calor, I'm hot, or literally I have heat. This one always gives me a chuckle. So it asks you if tienes hambre. Do you have? Tienes from the to form here. Tienes, do you have? And then hambre, which means hunger. I always throw people with this question in the oral interview. Instead of hearing tienes hambre, they hear tienes hombre. Tienes hombre. Do you have a man? Remember, hambre is hunger, hombre is a man. So do you have hunger or do you have a man? A little bit of a difference there in those two, so careful with that. Excuse me. If you look back at our handy-dandy textbook vocab sheet this week, you will see at the bottom a whole set of tener phrases, so you can have tener años, to be this many years old, tener calor, to be hot, tener cuidado, to be careful, tener éxito, to be successful, tener frío, to be cold. Tener ganas de, to feel like doing something. And notice it's followed by an infinitive, it says. So I would say, if I have, or I feel like doing something, I would say, tengo ganas de comer. I feel like eating. Or tengo ganas de hablar con un estudiante. I feel like talking to a student. Or tengo hambre, I'm hungry. As we keep going, tengo miedo, I'm afraid. Tengo prisa, I'm in a hurry. Or my favorite one, tener que in an infinitive. So you can have to do anything. Tengo que limpiar, I have to clean. Tengo que cocinar, I have to cook. Tengo que caminar al perro, I have to walk the dog. Okay, so all these expressions are here. You also have tener razón, to be right. Tener sed, to be thirsty. Tener sueño, to be sleepy. And tener suerte, to be lucky. So all those tener expressions are available there in your book. Oh, goody, we're still recording. Okay. Last thing, one of the common errors I see as well in a lot of compositions is people try a lot of times to translate from English to Spanish, or they try to use Google Translate and it just does not work well. So notice this sentence, tengo clases difíciles este semestre. This is correct. I have classes difficult this semester. Not I have difficult classes. I have classes difficult. Notice in Spanish, the noun always comes before the adjective, or you can think about it as the adjective always comes after the noun. So tengo clases difíciles. I always hear people say, or I could say, yo soy un profesor honesto. I'm a professor honest. You never say, yo soy un honesto profesor. Okay, because professor, my noun, should come before the adjective of honest. It should be yo soy un profesor honesto. Okay, that is all I have for you this week, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a nice week.